Nintendo's latest mouse is one of the worst and most uncomfortable designs I've ever seen that is already hurting people's hands. I'll not only go deeper into how and why using ergonomic concepts, but also how it can hurt your wrists, arms, shoulders, neck, and back. And I'll give you some tips on how to avoid accidentally giving yourself carpal tunnel syndrome. Let's go! Before I begin, I want to give a quick rundown of what neutral upper extremity positioning looks like because I will be referring to this a lot. This is the most relaxed, natural position where our muscles are doing the least amount of work. It looks like a handshake. The more we deviate from this when completing movements, tasks, and so on, the greater the muscles need to work to sustain that position. I will also be using this little visual indicator to show whenever one of the four most common ergonomic risk factors for injury are activated: force, repetition, awkward posture, and duration. The more you have of one and/or some combination of the four, the greater that risk of getting hurt increases. What stood out to me across all the presentations was the way the wrists were positioned. There's a slight tilt, which is known as an ulnar deviation. And when I put my hands on my own Joy-Cons, I'm almost forced to tilt to keep the Joy-Con pointed forward. That results in a pull in these areas. Because of how thin they are, I have to utilize a pinch grasp between my thumb and pinky, and I feel it digging into my palm just to stabilize its movements. This is the most physically demanding type of grasp for your hand that increases tension here, here, and here. When trying to click the R and ZR buttons, that results in a claw grip, which impacts these areas. This also happens when pressing the face buttons with your thumb, adding more strain here, which Digital Foundry also observed.
But you've still got to use your thumb to hit the face buttons to adopt a kind of claw to always hit all those buttons.
At this point, you've probably noticed that indicator only light up for the awkward posture risk factor. In isolation, these movements are not considered strenuous. Most of you will barely feel anything. At first. Let's be real here, y'all are gamers. You are most certainly going to be playing using these same movements repeatedly closer to 6 to 8 hours at a time. Or 12. Or 16. You know who you are. Building up tension and strain in the impacted areas. Since that is the case, duration and repetition will just be permanently lit up from now on. And if you're like me, who tends to grip the controller so hard that she cracks it over years of playing, that hits 4 out of 4 risk factors. While it has been confirmed that you can connect a USB mouse to the Switch 2, thank God. However, even though that is the best option, it's not super clear how many games will support it. We still haven't even looked at the bigger picture yet, which will affect you regardless if you use the Joy-Cons or a traditional mouse. People tend to do whatever is the most convenient to them to complete a task as quickly as possible, even though it's not necessarily the safest way to do it. Take, for example, the basic gamer lean. People don't just sit like that for the memes. There's a reason why they tend to sit like this. Unlike watching TV, playing a game is an interactive visual medium. Our vision guides our posture, so we naturally lean forward to focus on important details like insert your favorite gaming reference. This small act of concentration cascades across the rest of your body to introduce the following strenuous features. When leaning forward with your neck straight, you're no longer looking ahead, you're looking down. That's obviously not helpful, so naturally you need to crane your neck back to look at the screen, putting anywhere between 10 to 40 pounds of force in your neck to support your bowling ball weight of a head. Traveling further down the spine, now that it's bent at the lumbar section, all the weight of your upper body is going to your lower back, and the muscles in that area are working significantly harder to keep you from face planting onto the floor. You're now hunched forward, which literally makes it harder to breathe, and that means less oxygen for your brain and muscles. You're also potentially pinching your brachial plexus nerves running under your collarbone, which are important for sending and receiving motor and sensory information to and from your hands. And you kinda need that for using your controller of choice. Remember, this is all just for the basic gamer lean. With the Switch 2's mousing functionality, it'll also add these brand new features. The aforementioned pinch and claw grasp for the Joy-Cons, straining your shoulder when reaching towards the table, multiple ways to awkwardly bend your wrist, and compressing your blood vessels, nerves, and tendons in your wrists and forearms. Let's dive deeper into these newest additions to this uncomfortable package. As you can see during this particular minigame, all four are reaching for the table to mouse, which is odd. Why? Because Nintendo already implemented a more comfortable option. You can use your lap as a surface. This relaxes your shoulder by keeping your elbow at your side at a natural position. And yet, no one is doing this, preferring to strain their shoulders. I wouldn't blame you for this because, let's be honest, who the flip uses their mouse on their lap?
It's not comfortable, like, having the mouse mode on my lap. Even us, we were, like, trying to play it on our lap, and we all, like, gravitated to tables. Like, we pulled up flat surfaces in front of us to use the mice, which is not really optimal, and that's only if you're playing the game on the TV. If you're playing it portably, which I'm sure a lot of people do, then it's not even really a feature.
This is a shame because I genuinely think this is a clever idea. But it calls back to my original point. People instinctively do what they feel is natural or convenient to them, not necessarily what's best for them. And people naturally want to use their mice on a flat surface that is most likely in front of them. The dreaded coffee table. Not only are people going to tilt their wrists like I said before, they will also likely hyperflex them. The tendons for your fingers here and here are pulled much more tightly compared to if you kept your wrists neutral, which will tire them out faster. And in some cases, the ensuing inflammation can swell and impinge your hands, blood vessels, and nerves across multiple points along your forearm. Then when you add resting against the sharp edge of the coffee table against this specific part of your wrist, you're further pinching and irritating all three against your carpal tunnel. Yes, that carpal tunnel, with its associated numbness, tingling, and pain in these areas. Honestly, the most insidious thing is, even if you did your absolute best to sit with neutral posture, this couch coffee table setup encourages you to sit like this. It is eerily similar to how pandemic-era workers positioned themselves at home during lockdown. People brought home their laptops and just used whatever's available to them, which were either dining tables and chairs or coffee tables and couches, because you would think that would cause pain. It's just computer work, the least demanding job on the planet, and there's no way the lockdown was going to last more than a month, right? I've assessed hundreds of these workers complaining of aches after using setups like these within a span of a year. The parallels are uncanny. My job now as an ergonomic consultant is to minimize these risks by examining how to change two aspects of a typical player's experience: their environment and their technique. When changing these, my priority is to find solutions that promote neutral posture. The simpler and more realistic, the better. Let's start with the easiest one to change: their environment. The seemingly obvious solution is to switch from playing at a couch coffee table setup to a classic office chair desk setup. However, this is only a viable option for content creators and dedicated PC gamers. If you fall under this category, I highly recommend following these resources and videos I've linked down in the description as starter guides. Although it's probably safe to assume that most of you would prefer to play on the TV or in handheld mode, and would rather not have to shell out even more money than you already probably have to play ergonomically. Luckily, the best solution is also one of the cheapest: use a lap tray. This resolves almost every concern I raised in the previous section with regard to posture. This will allow you to lean back in a more upright, neutral posture, reducing tension in your neck and back, and you can literally breathe easier. It'll keep your shoulders relaxed, elbows at sides, and forearms and wrists straight. I would get a lap tray similar to these with a desktop pad. Avoid getting one that has a heightened lip around its edge like this, since that would result in compression on your wrists and forearms. One downside is that it's cumbersome to take on the go, so bear that in mind. Another thing we can change is the mouse itself. As I said before, using an external USB mouse over the Joy-Cons is the most ideal option, so if you can use one that is comfortable for you, please do. An alternative option, which I've seen some examples floating around online, is a detachable mouse grip accessory, which I agree would help immensely. Except this one. My hand hurts just looking at it. I have some ergonomic design ideas for said accessory, but that's outside the scope of this video. If you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comments. However, I'm not saying you should never use the Joy-Cons as a mouse, because there will always be someone that's going to use this feature for one reason or another, which segues nicely into discussing what we can change in a player's technique. Please use the following tips to minimize hand, wrist, and forearm discomfort. Instead of pointing the Joy-Con straight forward, you point it like this to keep your wrist straight to reduce ulnar deviation. Move the Joy-Con with your whole arm when possible. That way, you are redistributing the workload to a bigger group of muscles and save the smaller muscles for other fine motor tasks. Speaking of bigger muscle groups, if you do need to rotate the Joy-Con like this, instead of moving at the wrist, move at the elbow. But do not lean onto your elbow. This can also cause nerve issues along this part of your forearm and hand. Take breaks. I don't care how fit, healthy, or young you are, No muscle in your body can tolerate repetitive movements or prolonged positions. Even when done correctly, they will eventually tire out or stiffen. Do not push yourself if you start to feel tired or discomfort. Stretch, get water, and maybe go out to touch some grass, I don't know. I am very much hoping that this is just another one of Nintendo's outlandish gimmicks that will be memed and fade into obscurity. But mouse and controls have been around for a long time, and Nintendo has the occasional habit of making generation-defining renowned designs. What if this is one of those times? In either case, just follow my tips, be careful, and take breaks. Or else. Thank you for watching. I make videos about ergonomics and gaming and in general, so if you're into that, please like and subscribe for more. Bye!